We're here to protect you and the ones that you love. It's a good feeling to know that our efforts aren't going unnoticed.
It actually brought tears to my eyes to know that we have this support.
You're welcome. I must just say, you're welcome. It's stressful, but we're not going anywhere.
Welcome to another edition of the Bucknell Women's Rowing Program through the decades. Tonight, we have the decade that started it all in terms of the varsity program, the decade of the 1990s. We've got some outstanding alums, 3 classmates, as a matter of fact, joining head coach Steve Kish and one of our current student athletes, Tina DeMola. Tina is a sophomore from Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, and we thank her for joining tonight's program. My name is Todd Newcomb, and I want to thank Geisinger as our sponsor for tonight's event. Geisinger has done a great job throughout the pandemic. And as always, they do a super job with our student athletes at Bucknell day in and day out. Without any further ado, let me introduce our 3 ladies that helped get the program rowing program going here at Bucknell. As I mentioned, they're classmates, all from the class of 2000. So they're on the tail end of the 1990s decade. Our first guest from that class is Ann Calcagney. We also have Sarah Dignan and Kelly Wenger. And they're going to join head coach Steve Kish and Tina DeMola for a great conversation about the women's rowing program. So Coach, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, well, this is wild. These 3 young women were here when I came back for my first year at Bucknell, and they were all part of the freshman squad in, I think, 96, 7. Mm-hmm. And I still have actual pictures floating around here somewhere of all you guys rowing as novices. And I've seen you all a little bit through the time, but Sarah, I've seen you the least, so I can't tell you how awesome it is to see you.
It's good to see you too. It's good to see everyone.
There was one time I was we were staying at a hotel for a regatta one time, and I saw the elevator close, and for a split second, I thought you were behind the doors. I was like, is that Sarah? But yeah, it's been a long time. I remember such great memories of all 3 of you, Annie and Kelly and Sarah. So let's get it started. I have some questions teed up that I'm supposed to ask, and but basically, what have you been up to since you graduated? Life, family, work, anything special going on for the past 20 years? We'll go with Sarah, Kelly, then Annie. Is that okay?
Sure. All right. Let's see. 20 years. Wow. I will say when I read 90s, I was like, I graduated in 2000, which then I realized meant the 90s that I was at Bucknell. So excited to be here today and to see everyone. Let's see. So right after Bucknell, I came out to California to go to Stanford, which was awesome. And I credit Bucknell with making my way out to California. So I had a great year at Stanford, decided to stay and settled in San Francisco and began my career here as a structural engineer. So I did actually practice engineering for about 6 years before going to business school and then moving into the tech world. And today I work at a tech company. We do energy management. It's a SaaS platform. And I lead all of customer success and operations. So I talk with customers all day. That's on the professional side, which is all great. And Bucknell prepared me for all those great things. But I am married. I have a lovely, wonderful wife here in San Francisco. We've been married for 10 years. We celebrated an amazing pandemic 10-year anniversary. I'm pretty sure we had takeout. And I have 2 little boys. Yesterday, my oldest turned 8 and my youngest is 4, and they are Oisin and Arlo. And I would like both of them to go to Bucknell because my wife went to Smith, which is a women's only college. So I am sort of a shoo-in. So that's what I've been up to.
I remember I was out in San Fran area. I remember we connected on the phone briefly. And I think you were either about to or had just finished the Escape to Alcatraz, what's that called, triathlon? Or?
Yeah, I am. I still do it every year. I've done 17 in a row. And last summer would have been 18, but it was canceled. So I'll be doing number 18, hopefully in August this year.
Got it. I could talk to you forever, Sarah, but let's keep going. Kelly?
So after graduation, I moved down to Washington, D.C., and Annie and I roomed together for a couple years down in D.C. And then from there, I was an IT consultant. I had majored in computer science and did do a little bit of programming right out of school. But now if you ask me to look at code, I wouldn't know what to do with it. After living down in that area for about 8 years, I moved back up to Pennsylvania outside of Philadelphia in Collegeville, so not far from Phoenixville. We'd like to go out to dinner there when it's not a pandemic. And my husband and I have been married for, I guess this year will be 15 years, and I have 2 sons. They are 12 and 10. They both had birthdays in March. And now I work at a financial services company, and I'm a product manager in our investment solutions group. And it's a kind of a new realm from what I was doing living in DC, but it's been great. And like Sarah said, I feel like Bucknell has really prepared me for the career and different shifts and just the evolution of where I am today.
And no more time on the baseball field at the Phillies stadium?
No. Unfortunately, no. Yeah, that was my fun college job as a Phillies ball girl. And so that was great. But we do try to go down to the stadium at least like once a year. We often go to the Reading games because it's a little closer and easier to deal with. But yeah, we still love the Phillies. Both my boys play baseball, travel baseball. So we're gearing up for the busy season with rec and travel games. So
your folks were in, was it Boothwyn?
Broomall.
Back in the day? Broomall.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sarah, I always see the name of where your folks were, but I can't remember it right now.
They're still there. Bernardsville, New Jersey.
Bernardsville, yeah.
Town of
Cool.
6,000 people.
All right, Annie, you're up.
Okay, so I am currently in Chicago. So I've been here for about, probably, now I guess 14 years. So after graduating from Bucknell, I went to DC as well, lived with Kelly for a couple of years. And then I went back to, and I worked for IBM, so I was in the consulting arm there. Never actually used my Bucknell degree per se, but used the learning and the problem solving and everything else that comes with it. And then I went back to business school at WashU in St. Louis after about 3 years in DC, abandoned Kelly and came to the Midwest thinking that I would go back to the East Coast, but ended up going down to Texas for about 3 years. Or I guess it was closer to 2 years, but working for Frito-Lay in finance. And then I actually ended up wanting to get out of Texas and head back north. So I ended up in Chicago, working for PepsiCo for about another 8 years or so. And I actually did sort of a switch from a career perspective, moving into operations. So I'm currently in logistics. I'm the director of logistics at Kraft Heinz. So also changed careers, a couple other jobs in there. And I have 2 kids. So I've been married for about 7 years. 2 kids, a boy that just turned 5 and a girl that just turned 3. So that is sort of, if you hear them screaming in the background, they weren't very happy that mommy was going back to work. As they think the COVID life, if I go downstairs to my bedroom, which you can see I'm working in my bedroom, they think I'm going to work and I'm going to miss you, et cetera, et cetera. So, but anyway, that's me in a nutshell these days.
And what was home again in Vermont? Was it Sherburne?
Charlotte. So like
Got it.
Charlotte, but Charlotte, yep, right outside of
Got it.
Burlington. So parents have moved closer to Burlington, made a big move to the city, but
Got it.
family's all still there.
I always want to ask you, because I'm up in Vermont quite a bit now. Is it Vergennes? Is that the little town we went to a
Yeah,
parade? when we were
Great,
there?
yeah.
Gotcha. Hey, Todd, I hope Brad Tufts gets to watch this. He's down in Hilton Head, Sarah. Do you remember Brad Tufts?
Only a little bit, I think.
So he was either the acting or the assistant athletic director at that point.
I was gonna say he
Um,
was not a student. I'm like, he was an athletic director.
Right.
Okay, yeah. I was like,
But
I think.
the short story I remember about him and you was he saw you and you used to have this baseball cap that you wore quite a bit that was pretty beat up. And I think he said something to you about like you should give that thing a wash. And you gave him a real stern look. Do you remember what you said?
I have a I have a guess, but it's probably what I tell my wife today. So I'd like to hear it.
I think you basically just gave him a firm look. It was like, that's hard work, pal.
Mhm. That's what I say today too. I choose one hat and I train in it all year for 6 months for Alcatraz. And then I wear that hat on race day. So when I start to feel tired, I think to myself, all the hard work is in the hat and it's going to get me to the finish line.
Yeah.
He watches
All right,
every one of these, so he watches every one.
Good. Yeah, he's always writing notes. So take us back to the beginning, and we can go in the same, or let's go reverse order. So Annie, then Kelly, then Sarah, about your decision to combination of come to Bucknell, but also to try rowing and stick with rowing.
Yeah. So coming to Bucknell was sort of, I was down to about 3 places, 3 colleges, knew I wanted to get out of New England. Growing up in New England, everyone went to a small liberal arts college, knew I didn't want to go there. So really, I did a couple overnight stays at different places. I'll never forget, went to the dining hall, spilled tomato sauce all over my white sweater. But the next day, I remember my parents coming and picking me up from right in front of the admissions. And I just sort of felt comfortable. I felt like it was the right place to go. And I said, I think Bucknell is going to be my school. So that's sort of how it ended up Bucknell. And then rowing, my sister rowed for about 6 months at Dartmouth. So I always knew I wanted to be part of sort of a team, or I knew I wasn't going to do any, a sport that I had done in high school necessarily. So I was thinking, okay, rowing, rugby, like what other sports might interest me. And so the rowing's tryouts were probably first. And so I jumped in and sort of loved it, loved the team aspect, met really good friends, like even just in tryouts, like some people didn't stay even on the team, but stayed friends forever. So that's what really locked me in. So don't regret it at all. So.
And just for everyone watching, these 3 young women were athletes in high school, but they were not rowers. So when they came to Bucknell, they were part of what's called the novice program. Because of COVID, we just had our novice tryouts about 4 weeks ago, so in March, and they hit the water maybe a week ago for the first time. So a lot different from a typical fall. Go for it, Kelly.
All right. So when I was looking at schools, I really thought I wanted to go to school in the South. So I applied to pretty much all Southern schools, and then Bucknell and Lehigh. And my first choice was actually Wake Forest, and ended up getting waitlisted there, which is interesting because Wake Forest and Bucknell look very similar. In fact, I think it was on the Wake Forest tour, they said they're often considered like Bucknell of the South. It kind of looks a lot like Bucknell. So I got waitlisted at Wake Forest and chose Bucknell, and didn't regret it. I think I went in thinking, if I don't like it, I'll try to transfer. But once I set foot on campus and met friends and everything, I didn't really look back. As for rowing, this is also kind of like not your typical story of how someone gets involved. I was an athlete in high school, just not good enough to do any of those sports at the college level. So I knew I wanted to be involved in a team. And at the time, I had a boyfriend who was at West Point, and he had told me that he was gonna try rowing there. So I remember it was like day 2 on campus, and we had the activity fair. And I remember going around and signing up for club volleyball and water polo and I don't know, all these other things. And then I get to a table and, it says crew. And I was like, oh, so I walked right up to it. I think it was Tim Keene was sitting there. And I said, do you ever row against Army? And they're like, all the time, they're in our league. And I was like, sign me up. So I signed up And turns out that the guy I was dating never did crew for Army. So my dream of running into him every weekend at different races never came to fruition. But I stuck with it anyway. And like Andy said, I think crew tryouts were first. And that's how I ended up doing it. I remember thinking tryouts were impossible. There's so much running. Had no idea like what to even do on the rowing machine. And I can remember some of the upperclassmen like trying to break it all down of like, you know, you always think it's just arms before you actually, you know, do it. So, and then to stick with it, I think freshman year was tough. I think we didn't really win anything for a long time, and we had a couple brutal races. I like Erie when it was snowing, and whatever lake we were on had white caps, and like we were all bloody knuckles, like. And then to top it all off, our novice coaches' kids were like throwing up on the. That was just awful. And so I think after that,
I have repressed all of this. It just came flooding back. Thank you.
anytime. And I think I actually quit for a week or two after that race because I was so traumatized by that weekend. But ended up coming back, and then we won. I was in a 4 and we won a medal at Murphy Cup, and just winning that medal kind of turned everything around. So, and didn't look back after that.
Todd, just to jump in for a second, these, again, young women were part of a really special 4-year period of time where for the first 3 years, the team was sort of building back up, had some large numbers, and then actually in their senior year, I would say we almost imploded in some senses. We were a big team of men and women, but we weren't having a ton of success on the race course. And so in their senior year, we ended up with 6 women total on our women's rowing team. And 3 of them are here right now. Annie and Kelly rowed in a 4, and then Sarah rowed in a pair. And their boats blazed incredible trails at the Dadville Regatta. I think Sarah's pair even rowed in the men's event at the Murphy Cup. I remember that, beating a men's pair or 2. And Annie and Kelly went on to row at the Henley with their 4, our first trip ever to England. And but yeah, they're part of a really incredible piece of our history, and so great to have them back. Sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
No, I was just recovering from some of those memories that are really funny. I'm literally crying, Kelly, thinking about some of those. The Erie one, it was cold. I mean, we're pretty tough, and it was cold. It was so cold.
It was so cold. It was snowing. So you all had to be on the bus. You're drenched from the white caps. The bus stunk. And then those kids were throwing up on the bus. It was great.
And it was the guys and the men and the women on the bus.
Right,
together,
it was the men and the women.
It was
so
the
it was
whole
just like,
crew.
it was like sweaty men, wet, gross, throw up. And then I think on the way back, there was an accident on 80, and we were stuck on Route 80 for like hours on that bus still.
Oh,
it was just a nightmare.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It's too good. Let's see. I think anything I have to say is just not as good. So how did I choose Bucknell? Let's see. It's funny to hear like, oh, I was down to 3 schools. I really wanted to go here. I feel like in a lot of ways I was totally lost. Like I knew I wanted to go to college and all of that, but I was like, I have no idea where to go. I'm the youngest of 4. And so I saw so many colleges, so many universities with my older 3 siblings that I think I was like, almost like shell shocked. I'm like, oh, I now have to choose one. So for me, I actually had a family friend bring me to Bucknell kind of late in the process. And I had already applied, but I hadn't come and seen the school. And I walked around and I really, really liked it. And I remember that my criteria, my very loose criteria was I knew I wanted to be an engineer. But I didn't, this is like a classic 18-year-old mentality. I was like, I want to be an engineer, but I don't want to go to a school that's called like Polytechnical Institute, you know? And like, I just remember that that was like, I was so firm on those two things. And so, you know, I think when I visited Bucknell, I kind of had, Annie, what you said, it kind of, I remember feeling the same way. Like it felt very comfortable, right? It felt like the right size. I come from a really small town in New Jersey and came from a small high school, and you know, wasn't ready yet to leave, you know, kind of that realm. And so really just fell in love with the school, fell in love with the engineering program. Also fell in love with the soccer program, which gets me to crew. I did not make the soccer team. I got cut, which I was heartbroken for sure. You know, any athlete would be. You know, I trained all summer and I came, I was in shape, I was ready to go, and I didn't make the team. And I remember my sister wrote me a letter and said, you know, she went to Colgate and she wrote me a letter and said, hey, I know how disappointed you are, but you love sports, you love team sports, like you have to find something. And Annie, same sort of thing, like crew, rugby, you know, all the sports 20 years ago or 25 years ago that really didn't have a lot of high school programs. So a lot of people were just showing up like the three of us, like, hey, we love sports, we're fit, you know, we want to work hard. Please take us. And I think that was basically, I tried out for the crew team with that mentality of, hey, I want to be a part of something special here. And I remember loving all the running. So sorry, Kelly. And then the other thing too is that, you know, Annie and Kelly are kind of alluding to it, but all of us had friends for the entire 4 years that we made on that first day of tryouts. And Steve, you probably don't know this, but I'm pretty sure that Erica Matthews, if you remember her, to this day, if I texted her, she could probably read off the roll call that you would do. She knew that it was, we would like, she could just do it, like Calcagni, Diagnan, Finkenzeller, like she had it like alphabetical order, exactly how you would do it in the same like annotate, like years. She would be able to like rattle it off. And so these are people we're all still, you know, connected to. You know, maybe I don't talk to them every day, but I could reach out to them in a heartbeat and they would pick up the phone. Like I know I could call Kelly and Annie and they'd pick up the phone and say, hey, Sarah, what's going on? What can I do to help? And so it was an easy decision to stay and row for 4 years. I loved it. I wouldn't have it any other way, you know, and it, you know, I wouldn't have said it my freshman year at Bucknell, but I'm glad I got cut from the soccer team because I think my experience at Bucknell was made by the crew team.
I'm going to pass it over to Tina, but when Sarah says it was easy to stay for 4 years, let me just attest to the fact that it wasn't close to easy. There was a big group of freshmen, probably a good 30 to 40. Probably finished the year with a good 20 their freshman year, and only 4 made it through all 4 years. Elizabeth Barrows would be the 4th in this class. And really, it's really something to make it through the 4 years back then. So kudos to them. Tina, I think you're next.
Awesome and hearing about all your experiences. So my question is, what advice would you give me or any of the other athletes in our program today about the college rowing experience at Bucknell? And we can go in the same order we've been going in.
Hey, Todd, am I wrong to jump in for a second? Tina, why don't you let them know who you are, where you're from, what you're studying, and what year and rowing?
I'm Christina DeMola. As Todd said, I'm from outside of Philly, Phoenixville, PA. I'm studying accounting and I'm a sophomore on the team.
Okay, so I guess I'll start. I don't know, Sarah, you started first, but I'll jump in. So, you know, I think rowing at Bucknell and just the learning that you take for the rest of your life, collaboration, leadership, things that you won't even know that you've learned through the rowing program. I say to people, you know, that have been college athletes that I've interviewed and, you know, at work, I've asked questions and they've used examples from their experiences in college. And when they put it into practice in the real world, it's amazing. Like it really translates to the rest of your life. I think one of the big things that I always think I learned through rowing is sort of how to influence without direct sort of authority. So how do you get your team, all your teammates to work together towards the same goal through the thick and the thin? I mean, there were days that I did not want to get on a rowing machine. I did not want to get on the boat. Elizabeth didn't want to pull her weight. That Steve used to put it, different things like that. And how do you get everyone at the end of the day, look back and be like, we're going to do this. Like, we were at the Henley at the end of the year. It's like, we all looked together, and I think Steve was like, this is definitely your last race. Like, it doesn't matter, what you do, if you win, you lose, whatever, this is your last race. And I think when Steve walked away from the, the four of us or the five of us with our coxswain, we were like, we can do this, guys. Like, we have nothing to lose, right? And we put everything in, and it was just like amazing to see the teamwork and the group effort that really can, again, lead to an amazing end result. And that applies through the rest of your life. Like, you can work together as a team with your peers, your family. I mean, it's everyone in your life. You're going to be a really successful individual. So that's
yeah, I would agree. I think the teamwork aspect is huge. Working with different personalities in real life in an office environment is similar to kind of like the different personalities that come together in your boat. Like Annie was saying, there's a whole variety of personalities, and there's some days you don't want to roll out of bed at 5:15 or it's raining and you have no interest in like being on the water, or you're just tired and you have to row in the pair and you don't want to row, and somehow you forget to put your oar out and you flip at the dock by accident. But then you work together as a team to come up with a story of how we were out and caught a crab and made it back alive to the dock, but couldn't row because we were soaking wet. True story. And I just think taking that experience and, crew, they say, is the ultimate team sport. If one person's off, you're all off. And I think that really works in real life with family, with people you work with. There's always going to be someone, or you've got to psych up to get there and get the job done. So yeah, stick with it and have fun.
Absolutely. I guess I'll echo what Annie and Kelly said. I think I think it's the in a lot of ways it's a kind of like a risk-free environment to practice. Like, when are the moments when you kind of need to give someone a kick in the butt, right? Like, we had those moments, right? Those moments where you're like, you got to try harder, and you're just kind of like, kind of a jerk, right? And then there are moments when you can't do that, right? There's moments when you have to be like, what's going on? Like, we can do this, right? And I think is one of the things. I remember a leadership class that I took in business school. I loved the concept of you have to mirror your leadership at that moment with the moment, right? And I think crew is like that, right? There are moments when you need to be like, come on, we just got to do this. And then other moments where you have to show a little bit more compassion, like, hey, listen, I know you just had a really hard day. I know you had a hard test, but like, we got to get through this. Like, how can I help? How can we get through this? And I think, rowing is the ultimate team sport. And I think you learn very quickly that, you have to be a good teammate. And sometimes that means, being hard on someone, being nice on someone, sometimes it's not saying anything, right? And sometimes it's kind of letting some other people take the lead and kind of figuring it out. And so I think it is, kind of mirroring the situation, and you're going to do that for the rest of your life, whatever job or spouse you choose, you're going to have to, always flex and think through the situation. I think the other thing that I did want to mention from like a totally different professional perspective is something that Annie said that I really thought about when I'm interviewing people right out of college, right? Like I am 100% hiring just talent, right? I'm just hiring someone who I'm like, I think this woman is a hard worker, right? I think she's smart, I'm looking at her resume, which which talks about the different clubs that she was in at school, right? I mean, there's not really that much on that resume. So you're taking a bet on someone, right? And the person who can look me in the eyes and tell me about their, college experience on a team, and the fact that they had to balance, workouts and early morning and classes, like that's the person I'm going to hire every single time. I'm always going to hire the person who played a college sport, because I know how hard it is to balance all of those things and kind of to come out at the other end in 4 years and be able to talk to me about it. And so I do think that it's a huge resume boost, and it's a great thing to talk about in your interview. Just always, kind of refer back, because people are going to see that passion, right? People are going to see the passion that you put in every day in your sport. And that's what I look for. I want that passion every day when I show up at work. So I would definitely, for those seniors, talk about it, use it, put it on your resume. Employers look for that stuff.
So Tina is a sophomore, and we chose her to be here tonight because she reminds me a lot of you guys. And Tina was obviously a freshman last year, didn't get to race in the spring semester. And she's not super tall, but she's super dedicated. And there you go. And she trained at a really high level over the break. I remember you guys did some great training as well over the break and came back in phenomenal shape, and just rode in the second varsity 8. We have 5/8s at this point. So second varsity 8 for her first collegiate spring race this past weekend against Lehigh, and absolutely, I don't want to say adored Lehigh, but they were really far ahead. So yeah, it's neat to see the 4 of you. Kelly, I remember you had the biggest case of the I don't wannas of anybody. Am I right?
Totally true. And you always told me that the hardest thing is the first step. Like once you take that step, like once you get in the boat, once, you pick up the weights, it was fine. But I'm a procrastinator, and, I don't out to this day, but yeah, it is always, and I do always remember that, Steve, that you always said, with me, it was like the inertia. I just needed to get going in order to, plow through it. But
I think the senior year for all you guys, and really for most rowers, is the capstone year. And I can remember almost week by week the way things unfolded. Sarah, I can remember unpacking the new boat in the dark down at the boathouse.
Yeah.
Before we took it out for the first row. But yeah, these guys are a really impressive bunch. I'm supposed to ask another question. I was going to say also, Sarah, that class you're talking about from grad school, we sort of had different relationships between me and the 2 different boats. So the pair, you and Carrie and I had a pretty calm relationship. But I would tell you that Kelly and Annie would say I never went to that class or learned that lesson about the situational leadership. It was one version.
One way.
There was one total version that was not calm, not not recognizing we may have had a hard day.
It was very passionate.
Or sick, nothing.
Okay. All right, we can edit, right? All right, so how about a memorable experience as a part of the Bucknell Women's Rowing Program? Go for it. I think Kelly gets to go first this time.
Oh, well, there's just so many. Obviously, I think, being able to row in England and at the Women's Henley was just, the ultimate for us and our 4. And actually to perform well there was great. I can remember Steve used to show us video of this British men's 4, Redgrave's 4. I can't remember the other people in it, but and we would watch them row. Like we'd be in that shed by the boathouse, and you'd have like, I don't even know what kind of how we were watching it, but I feel like we were in that shed watching video, and you're like, look at their legs, like, da, 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 And then we had gone out we had flown overseas about a month early, and we trained, and it was abysmal. I was the bow of the boat, and we had to use we had a coxless 4, and I couldn't steer it for the life of me. And it was horrible. Like, it was embarrassing how poor I was at doing this. And we were terrible. We raced in a couple races, and we were just awful. And I remember like crying and just being so frustrated and everything. But then once our
It was
boat,
positive experience, just in case I just wanted
sorry,
to.
sorry,
Positive.
experience. I'm getting.
Is this? Are we building up? Oh, there's a climax. Go ahead. Go ahead. The peak. I'm there.
So once our boat arrived and we could have like our coxswain and everything, I remember we were practicing, and Steve couldn't be in a launch, so he's riding a bike on the side of the river, and he had a walkie-talkie that was hooked up to the cox box, and he's riding along, and he's like, I don't remember if it was port or starboard, but he's like, look, and there was Redgrave's 4, like cruising past us, and I think we may have been doing a piece, and they're like one-handed, just like totally like relaxed and crushing us. And so that was a highlight to actually, like, after all of those videos of look at their legs, to actually like, whoa, there's literally like rowing royalty, like rowing past us. But I think the Henley experience was great on so many levels. We had a lot of support from alumni who really helped make that trip possible for us. It was a great bonding experience. We got to, we all roomed together in a garage, apartment, bedroom and stuff. Steve was at a different place, but all of us girls were together, and it was fun. It was a good bonding experience. And there's just so many things, but I think that was the highlight, just the end. And like Annie said, like going into that last race, like we knew it was the last race, it was the final, and we gave it everything we had. And it was great. Way better than Erie.
Whoever wants to go next, go for it.
Annie, you want to go, or do you want me to go?
Either way, go ahead.
All right.
If I break up the Henley.
I think I have same with Kelly. I have a couple funny ones, couple great ones. I think spring break was actually, I think it was one of those where you were always like, oh man, are we really going to do this for a week? But it was always just like the whole thing, it was like the drive down in the vans was always like hilarious, like everyone's laughing. Like, I think I just like that. Those are the things that I remember is like bombing into the gas station at the appropriate speed. With, me at the wheel, I was always the driver. I think I was the only one that didn't have a ticket on the team. So I had to drive. I was always driving and like pulling into the gas station, everyone getting out, using the bathroom, like getting snacks, and like me pumping the gas. It was just like the whole thing, I feel like, was just like funny, and just fun. And I definitely remember that. And Carrie Hughberger, who was the woman that I was in a pair with, I remember her in our last week or last year. So I was a senior. I always consider myself to have a lot of energy and to be very fit, but she just crushed me. I just remember we'd be rowing in the morning and we'd be lifting. And then at like 2:00 in the afternoon, I just remember like just being like, I just want to take a nap. I just want to lay. And she'd be like, we gotta go sightseeing. We gotta go get green eggs. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm exhausted. Right. So I just like, I'll always remember that spring break. That was definitely like, I have like funny memories of just like different antics that happened that week, which was great. And then my ultimate memory, though, is I am still extremely proud of the fact that we got first place at Dadvale. I still have my oar. I still have a picture that actually Carrie's mom got me of us rowing with the medal. I have it in my room hanging up, and I'm very proud of it. It was for me, it was like my hat. It was 4 years of hard work, and it was my last race. And yeah, it was very special to be, I won't forget, it was very special to be on that platform, and Steve came out and stood with us, and Carrie and I got out of the boat, and the pictures, and both our parents were there. I mean, it was a big thing, and it was just awesome. It was an awesome experience, and it did feel like 4 years, up to that moment. So, it was awesome. So those are my kind of funny moments and serious moment.
Yeah, and I mean, I would echo Kelly's. I mean, I think the Henley for me was the culmination of the 4 years. And there were many times during the 4 years that I was like, you know what, why am I doing this? Like, I could run, I could be in great shape by myself and not be, going through this grueling sport. But the friendships that I built, the opportunities, again, to go to the Henley. I mean, I think of like going down to Augusta, which we used to call Disgusta. And just like the team aspect of it, that again, the friendships that I've built from it. I mean, Kelly, Sarah, but like even broader, like are just amazing. Kelly was in the lightweight floor for sophomore year, and we roomed in Augusta together. And I remember she needed to make weight, and Steve was like, you basically have to do everything to get Kelly to, make weight. Like you got to, like to help her, basically was what he said. He didn't say do anything but help her. We had the heat up at night. We had the shower running, and she was sitting in front of it. She's like, I'm never going to make it. And I'm like, I don't need to lose weight. Like, what am I doing? Like, I need a new roommate. And Kelly and I are sitting there laughing and just like, again, the joy that, the aspect of really as a team, even, Kelly and I were not in the same boat at that point. But we, again, it was a broader thing. It was a team. It was a rowing team collectively. Everyone wanted to succeed. And whatever it took, we were going to do. And those are the memories that like last forever, and also are, as much as it sounds like it's torture, it was a ton of fun, right? Like, what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? And then again, just the lead up to the Henley was also amazing. Like when you actually have, 4 people and a coxswain that have all dedicated so much time after graduation, even to say, yeah, we're going to go over there, we're going to practice, we're going to, do everything we possibly can. And again, I said it before, but, the amount of energy that the team collectively had before that last race. And I think actually the race before that, I think Steve, you thought we were going to lose. Like, because you just, you were like, they're a really good team. I think it was Reading, a really good team. They're really good. They've been winning everything. Like, they're really good. And it motivated us all collectively. Even, our coxswain, I think, was a sophomore, fairly new. So, to motivate her as well, the collective, the other 4 of us to be like, we can do this. Like, you'll be fine, was pretty amazing. And again, we came out, on top and got to go to the finals. So that to me was, an experience that I will always remember. I had a video I've always tried to show my husband. He won't, now I don't have a VCR to play it on, and I'm not sure how interested he is in watching it, but I still want him to. So someday I'll get it onto something else.
I have it on DVD.
There we
can
go.
borrow it. My dad converted it for me.
See, there we go. And I still have my oar, and I just threw out my uni last year.
I still have my uni. I said to my husband, I was like, they said to wear something Bucknell. Should I put on my uni?
I said to Dave, if you hadn't made me throw out my uni last year, I would have put my uni on.
I wonder if I have it. I have no idea. I have to check my parents. I feel like that might have been left in New Jersey.
I had it for a long time.
So Tina, Sarah was at one point, Sarah, I think we had you cox for a couple races, right? So
yeah, I think when I was a freshman. Yeah.
And I think you were in a lightweight boat at some point too, right?
Yeah,
and,
a long time ago.
Right. Sarah and I rode lightweight, and I can remember staying at my parents' house for dad veils, and we, had lost whatever heat or race, and we went out. You remember we went to like the mall and got Cinnabon, and we had like a cheesesteak. We just like pigged out. We came back home, and my dad said, Steve called, you guys have to row tomorrow. Some crew like dropped out. And Sarah and I looked at each other like, there's no way we're going to make weight. Like, I think we had put on like 9 pounds. Like, we
Absolutely.
went totally binged.
That's your dad's humor. I can remember him so well. But Sarah ended up rowing in a pair as a senior with Carrie, and both of you guys were, again, 5'3" when you're stretched out, 5'4", 5'5" at the most, right?
5'5".
Okay, there you go. Well, Carrie's even smaller.
5'3".
And but Tina, just to give you a picture, both these crews were historic. And Sarah's pair at the Dad Vale won the pair by 14.5 seconds, which is, multiple time zones, and no one has done that again yet. And pretty incredible. And like I said before, at one point they were going so well that we put them in the men's event to compete against some guys. Kelly and Annie and Elizabeth and Julie, who was a freshman that year, and Linda Vole, who was a freshman that year as well. They ended up winning some of our first medals in quite a while. There had been some periods of success, but then when I got there was a nice long period without the first 3 years. And then the fourth year, they basically swept almost every event they could, ended up with a silver, but then also went over to the Henley. And the race you're talking about, Annie, is we raced 3 times on Saturday, and Saturday late afternoon, evening was the UK silver medalists. And that was the one we were really worried about. And then the next morning was a little bit of a cakewalk, but then the final was the UK gold medalists. And but yeah, just getting through Saturday was a huge accomplishment. And then the fact that you guys got all the way to the final and did what you did was incredible. I just want to reflect on one small memory for me, Sarah, that has to do with things that pop up these days. Almost every day, things are going well, but then before you know it, there's a hiccup, We have a great practice, and I get home and I get the message about something's changing. And I always remember things were clicking really well, and I got a call from you, and you were always a big griller.
Oh, when I cut my foot?
Yeah.
The worst.
Yeah, everything was going so well, and we survived. Obviously, you were back in business a week later, but it really plays out every day here. And I'm sure you guys know this too. You want everything to go perfectly, and then you just got to pivot. And COVID has been a time where it's been pivoting constantly. I have another question I'm supposed to ask. Teammate you admired throughout your career here, and why? Hey, Sarah, go for it.
Oh man. It has to be Carrie. I keep in touch with her. I probably lost touch with her maybe a couple of years ago, so this is going to definitely prompt me to call her. But yeah, I think, Carrie was a sophomore when I was a senior, and, she didn't have to row with me. She didn't have to be in a pair. She could have bailed. I mean, she could have, right? I mean, she didn't have to, she had, she could have just been like, I don't know who this lady is. Like, I guess I'll stay. And I just, she was the Energizer Bunny for sure. I mean, I felt lazy around her. And I just remember, I just remember a really strong friendship with her, and we pushed each other. And her work ethic was amazing, both, academically too. I know that she worked really hard. We were always, in the engineering building together. I remember seeing her after practice. We would kind of go after practice together up to the engineering building. But yeah, I feel like, as I reflect, she could have bailed for sure, right? She didn't have to do all the hard work, but not only did she do it, but, she always took it to the next level. And I remember, Steve, our senior year, I don't remember the award, but it was something you gave it to both of us. And it was like, just like, I think like work ethic or getting the job done or something. And I just remember like feeling really good that I was standing up there with her. I was like, wow, this is, I kind of look at this woman and think of her as like just athletically way beyond me, and worked so hard, and to stand next to her, I think I really admired her, and I admired her now as I look back as well, if that makes sense, kind of like reflect on it. So I think it would be Carrie. I'll make sure that she watches this. Hi, Carrie.
One person. I feel like all 4 years we were surrounded by incredible women who, I mean, let's face it, to keep up with academics. And I don't think everybody put in so much hard work, and I don't think anybody really struggled with grades. Steve, I think, women's rowing always had like one of the best, GPAs and stuff like that. And everybody worked so hard. I know, like Sarah, you were engineering. Annie and I were computer science. I know Julie in our boat was engineering. Elizabeth was education. Just everybody worked so hard and was just dedicated to both schoolwork and, the team. And everybody always put in 100%. I don't know. I just admired, I think, it's the teammates and the other women that were there that helped, get my inertia going and stuff. And I always wanted to do well for everybody else because I looked up to everybody. I wanted, even like, some of the other women we used to row with, like Alexis and Renee and Lindsay, and even when we were freshmen, Morgan and Sarah and Megan, just some of the names I remember and thinking like, wow, like look, like these people have it together. It's school, rowing. We managed to still have fun and not, just we managed to have fun, and I'll leave it like that. But yeah, I looked up to everybody. I think I had deep respect for everybody who was on the team because it's tough. It's tough to keep up with school and the demands of the sport. But yeah, pretty much everybody.
Yeah. So I think Kelly mentioned it in the end. I think I looked up to, like, again, the Renee, the Alexis, people that, like, again, stuck with the sport that was so consuming. I mean, both physically as well as just time and emotion, like everything that goes into it. And the fact that they stuck with it and seemed to have everything put together, like I seldomly, and again, maybe I didn't see it, but I didn't see them break down. I felt like I was breaking down a lot. Kelly probably saw it as my roommate. At points in time, I was just breaking down, like, how am I going to get my work done and, do this, that, and the other thing. And I felt like I always looked up to the upperclassmen, and especially like, the one class above me where they didn't have a lot of success. Like, what was keeping them coming back? Like, I was like, don't you want to just walk out? Like, this is miserable. We're on the erg, like we're doing the erg Armageddon. Like, we're not getting anywhere. Like, we're just killing ourselves. People are crying. People are getting sick. Like, they're pushing themselves to the limit. And yet they'd come back the next day. And it was like amazing to think, like, here are individuals, women, strong women that are performing in class, performing in rowing, and like their rewards aren't really that visible. And so to me, it was like, that's what kept me going. And then the fact that we were actually seeing results was even more motivating. So, I think it was just really the upperclassmen that I looked up to in the women's rowing through the years.
I would say the same thing, just that being my first 4 years at Bucknell as the head coach. When I say the first 3 years didn't have a lot of success, those women were working and men were working at a high level, and I wasn't able to help them get to where I was able to help these young women get to. But that's who really inspires me as well. We try to get Alexis and Renee on here, but as you say these names, I remember Eileen, I remember our different coxswains, I remember Sammy, and such great people. And but yeah, those were 3 special years, and then this 4th year was a little extra special. Tina?
Yep. What advice do you have about networking and finding the right job after Bucknell? And we can start with Kelly.
Okay, I am not the person to ask about networking because it still frightens me to no end. I am not a very good networker. But I think sometimes, just getting up the courage to, go over to somebody, introduce yourself, see, again, the inertia, like I need an extra oomph to do that. But so I won't touch on that. But in finding a career, don't feel like you're pigeonholed into, what your major was. There's a lot of different opportunities, and you'll see this as you get into the working world. Skills you have in one position or one role are so easily transferable into other positions or other roles. And even the things like we spoke about earlier tonight about, leadership and teamwork and all of those skills that, you bring to your team, you can also bring that to your job. And just different skills, they transfer. I mean, when I worked in Washington, D.C., I was a government contractor. And now up here in Pennsylvania, I work at a financial institution, which I had no idea what I was doing. But I really convinced and really conveyed my ability to transfer the same kind of skills, just different realm, different industry. And I've been able to pivot. And even just in my job now, I'm on an investment solutions team. I was on a client reporting team. And so this is, again, a totally different aspect, but I can still bring those same product manager skills that I had with client reporting over into this realm. So don't feel like you're pigeonholed. I was computer science. My first role out of school, I wasn't a developer. That came a little bit later. And then I haven't, like I said earlier, I haven't seen code in I don't even know how many years. But you don't have to feel like, oh, I'm an accountant, I've got to do like this particular thing. You can kind of take those skills and kind of move with them.
Yeah, so again, I'll go a little bit into the networking piece. I mean, I will say that, like, and again, I'm not a huge networker per se, but I think I've built a pretty good network over the years. And I think don't underestimate the network that you've built just as being a Bucknellian. If people volunteer to talk to you, they want to talk to you. Have confidence that they're willing to talk to you, willing to help you, willing to build, give you advice or whatever it may be. Every connection that you have might not lead you to the job that you end up with. But the person that's giving you the time is genuinely giving you the time because they care about the connection they have with you, whether it's just Bucknell or it's their friend went to Bucknell, or, I went to WashU. So like, I'll have some people reach out to me with, about WashU. Like they want to help you. They want to build the network and the name of Bucknell and the name of whatever the connection is, it's good for them to continue to grow individuals. So I would just say, and I think Bucknell's network is very strong. Like I came out to Chicago and there's a Bucknell Club of Chicago. And like, I was in it at the very beginning when I was here, but even since then, like I've run into people that went to Bucknell that are wearing a Bucknell shirt, whatever. And, if I'll say something to them, or maybe I don't have any more Bucknell, but I need a shirt so I can be running in it or something of that sort. Because again, it just opens the avenues of conversation, and you never know what's going to lead you to the next thing. So, I think it's very random, the path that you will take. It'll be because of some network or some interaction that you never thought would lead you to a job. So that's sort of on the networking side. The other piece of advice that I would just give as you're going through your career is don't underestimate sort of the culture fit or how you feel, like your gut in a job. Like I went down to Texas and I didn't want to be in Texas. I knew that Texas probably wasn't the perfect fit with Annie, but I was like, I went in there, I met people, I fell in love with the company. It fit my personality. It fit what I wanted to do. And, did I love Texas? No, not necessarily, but I love the job, and it got me to where I am today. And I got experiences that I probably couldn't have gotten in a lot of other places. And again, as Kelly said, your career will morph, right? So, I started in consulting and I was in computer science. Then I went back and got my MBA with finance, and now I'm in operations. Like, it's, people, and I've been in Texas and St. Louis. I mean, I've been all over the place as well. So like, just have faith that like things will work out. Like, your gut's probably telling you the right thing. And that's sort of, it will take you the right places. And Bucknell gives you a great foundation to do what you want to do, what you ultimately want to do. So.
All right, let me see if I can add any nuggets. Those were good ones. But yeah, no, I think I was trying to think. I guess I'll hit on three things. Hopefully, not too long. I'll keep them brief. But the first is I totally agree on you're gonna have so many careers within your one career, right? I mean, I wanted to be a structural engineer. That's all I wanted to do, and I did it. And I got to year 5, and I was like, I can't do this another 50 years. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it another 5 years, right? And and the fact that I had used my time as a structural engineer to kind of meet other people. And so one of the things I wanted to hit on is, when you're networking, I think people have this very bad image of networking is like speed dating, right? You like walk into a room, you're like, all right, I'm going to get 50 business cards and I'm going to talk to 400 people. It's like, this is how many people you need for your next job, right? This is how many people you need to help you make the decision for me to like apply to Berkeley and quit my job and go get my MBA, right? Like, you just need one person, right? And so I think when you think about networking, think about it way more quality over quantity. And I think the anxiety of like having to like put yourself out there and meet a bunch of people kind of goes down a little bit. If you think about it more as like, who are the couple people that I'm going to invest and spend time with and kind of meet, and those will continue to introduce you to other people that you're going to spend time with and meet. And that's going to absolutely be how you honestly get your next job and your next job. I feel like Annie said, you got to find places where you click. And I'm actually about to start a new job in 2 weeks. This is my last week in my current role, and my last now 3 jobs have all been connections. I haven't put a resume together now for a decade, which is awesome. And and again, I wouldn't tell you that I am in touch with hundreds and hundreds of people. I have a small network from Bucknell, a small network from Berkeley, and and that kind of those I think more like rich connections are actually what gets you the introductions. It's not I'm going to meet 100 people today. And so I would just really think about those things. And then the last thing I just want to say, especially for all the young people watching this, which I hope there's a lot of, because that's who we're targeting to, is find a mentor. Make sure if you don't have someone at your company that's looking out for you, you have to find that person, because it's the most important thing at your job. And I feel the same way today. I'm no longer young, but I always make sure, and I'm sure Kelly and Annie are going to nod, I always make sure that I have people that I know I can go to, right? They might be peers, right? They don't have to be a boss or, but I have people that I can always go to and bounce off ideas. If I'm going to walk into a meeting and I know I'm kind of walking into, I'm going to say something and people are going to be pretty upset, I want to make sure I have at least 2 people at that table that are going to nod when I'm talking, right? Like, you have to make sure that you have your people at work, and that is a form of networking, right? So make sure you have mentors, make sure you have people looking out for you, and it makes work more fun too if you have those people. But it's so important as you build your career, have those people. You need your people, you need your team, right? You need your team at work.
Todd, I know we're long on time, so I just want to say thanks to everyone. This was awesome to see you and so impressive to hear you guys, and wish we could spend a lot more time talking.
Well, Coach, I want to take a second first and direct my first comments to Tina. Tina, thanks for taking the time out tonight to be on the call. I'm sure you learned some really great stuff that you'll be able to take back to your teammates. That's one thing that I learned something new in each of these calls, and I've done 150 of them now, and it's amazing to see all the alums talk about the experiences they've had and how rewarding it is to them. And you can feel it coming through in the excitement when they see each other and they talk. So hopefully you got some good out of tonight, and stay safe and healthy for the rest of the spring. I wish you luck with your season. I know there's a record number of home races this year. I don't think we've ever had, Coach Kish can correct me if I'm wrong, if we get to do them all, that many home races on the Susquehanna. So best of luck to you and your teammates, and thanks again for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
And to the alums, ladies, thank you so much for taking the time out tonight. Really appreciate what you did while you were here as members of the rowing program, and more importantly, what you've done since you've left. We can't have the kind of programs we have at Bucknell without the support we get from our alums, and I really appreciate what you've all done for Bucknell rowing since you left Bucknell. And then for those of you tonight that tuned in at home to watch, we thank you for doing so, and go Bison.